to stop and sort of reflect on our lives. I think when you turn the corner at 50, you really start looking at quality of life. And so that's something that gets people thinking about doing some planning for themselves. And then next thing, I think the biggest item is when our loved ones are impacted by different events. When people that we know and love pass away, it gets us thinking about, well, what happens if I pass away? How will that impact those around me? People we love who need long-term care assistance, that really motivates people to start educating themselves about what long-term care planning really is. Things like that trigger people's thoughts about doing some planning for themselves.
I do think that people are even more prone to do retirement planning and not so much do long-term health care planning.
Right.
It just seems to, I do have a long-term health care plan, but I could not get my husband covered. I mean, he just had too many things wrong with him, and they would not cover him. So I think that people need to look at this when they're younger and they're healthy than when they age and they may not be able to get it. So that's something that
right.
People need to look at as well. So how do people transition from what they do, their titles, and people are very much attached to their titles, to who they really are?
Yeah, I think this is sort of an ongoing quest. I think that the first step is just to start thinking about it. So many of us play so many roles, right? I mean, I'm a mother, I'm a financial planner, I'm a wife, I'm a husband. We get stuck in these roles and we don't really stop and ask ourselves who we are and what we want. And so I think this is kind of a lifelong endeavor, and it's something that when people transition into retirement, they can hit it just like a brick wall, So if you start thinking about it now, how do I perceive myself when I meet people? What information do I disseminate to them in the first few minutes of the conversation about myself? Because that's very telling with regard to how I identify myself. Some people are new parents, and the first thing they talk about is their 7-month-old child. That's what they're identifying themselves with at the time. And as you shift into retirement, that role changes. I mean, case in point is the, Jim that I brought up. What did he go through to transition from this high-powered CFO role where, when he walked in the room, people paid attention, to I'm a grandpa at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, with my grandkids. And that's why.
And that's not an easy transition either.
No,
I'm amazed. It's true. I mean, they make lots of jokes about those are the people who are presidents of their condo boards and places like that, because they still need to have that power, amongst them. But I do know that, my husband retired, I think 2 or 3 times, and all he was going to do was go fishing. And I think he fished for a month, and then I don't think he ever wanted to see another fish in his life. Not that he ever caught any, but that was a whole other thing. But, people think they want to play golf every day. People think they want to fish every day, and they really don't. I mean, yes, many times a month, but not every single day. Now, you also mentioned 401ks and so forth. So what can people do to safely turn them in any kind of retirement account they have into income streams? And how do they know how much they're going to need?
Yeah, those are really good questions. Really, that's something that you address on a case-by-case basis with people. So when you sit down with them, I really recommend that everybody, educate yourself, ask questions, talk to trusted advisors, just talk to people who are in the industry until you find somebody that you feel comfortable working with. Go to workshops and seminars and just learn as much as you can. But basically, kind of to simplify the picture, you can think about 3 buckets, and what you do when you're transitioning into retirement, your assets, is that you take all of your assets and you divide them into these 3 different buckets. So the first bucket you're going to use more immediately to generate some immediate lifetime income, right, to replace the income that you're not getting. And then bucket 2, you reserve out for somewhere between, I'd say, 7 and 13 years, put it into some growth vehicle that's fairly conservative, so that when it comes to maturity, you have some options with that. You can convert that into more income to keep up with inflation, or you can continue that growing just depending upon how your life is going, right? Because lives change. Things change all the time. And then the third bucket, you would set out, you'd be more aggressive with it, set it out, because it's not going to be accessed for maybe another 20 years. So, you revisit this plan every year because, we don't know how many grandchildren we're going to end up with. We don't know where our kids are going to end up living. A lot of people, it's so funny because they have these ideas of, I want to travel the world. And when they retire, what you find is their traveling consists of going from San Diego to Minnesota 3 times a year to visit kids and grandkids.
That is so true. That is so true. I meet them on the planes as I travel. I can tell you that. Well, it's interesting because there are a lot of avenues to look at with this, and it's very interesting to me how some people do get ready for retirement, some people don't. Some people have great financial strategies all of their lives, others do not. Is there anything else you want to do to help people with this life transition?
Yeah, one thing that I'm doing is I'm in the process now of interviewing people, just gathering information about their experiences. So I'm reaching out to pre-retirees and retirees, and because I'd like to put together just a little self-help book just to help people navigate, the transition. I just think too many people, they're not prepared for all of the changes that are going to happen in their lives. And I think if they just had a little roadmap, if they were able to read about it, of people's experiences, it would really help them to navigate, because some people are so afraid of making a mistake when they hit retirement that they freeze and they just won't even make a decision. It's just one of the worst things they can do. So I'm really finding this to be a wonderful experience. I'm interviewing some very fun and interesting people. I would love to talk to you if you ever decide you want to retire. And just sharing those experiences with people, I think, is really what I want to do in my next step in my career.
Well, it's funny. I was just thinking about you saying that you had just turned 50, and I was thinking to myself, well, what if she lives to 150? You're just a baby, and what you're doing, you're just a third through your life. So
that's right. We don't know, do we?
You don't know from one minute to the next. So where can people find you, Natalie? Where can they go to find out more information on who you are and what you do?
Well, you can always do a Google search, for anybody, just about anybody on the web. I have a website that's actually under construction again. You can email me, and I'd be happy to send you a bio further information about myself. My email address is N like Natalie, L like Lisa, Stillman, my last name, STILLMAN, @eaglestrategies.com. You can always call me. My phone number is 760-212-8621.
Fabulous. That's great. Well, I hope everybody got a lot of information from Natalie. She's giving you some really good hints and some things to think about. So don't put it off. I mean, I think it's important to talk to somebody and see if what you're doing right now is the right thing. So pay attention to what Natalie had to say, because I think it's a great service to people. So I want to thank Natalie, and I want to thank all of you for listening to Women in Business, the show that brings you women entrepreneurs and senior managers. I hope you enjoyed our show today. You can connect with me on Facebook and Twitter. Be sure to download my ebook, Life Lessons from an SOB, on my website, spunkyoldbroad.com, where you can find information on my speeches, coaching, and resources. And you can also email me at Gayle, that's Gayle, Carson13 @gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.